A very pleasant good day, my beloved brothers and sisters in Christ and outside the body of Christ. Well, once again, this is your Christian brother Ericbraxton speaking to you all from his beloved country, Trinidad and Tobago, of course, this wonderful island country that is in the blue Caribbean Sea. My dear brothers and sisters, in this part 3 video, let me give him a little kiss, my little friend. Right, you could run off and play now, my dear friend. Now, my dear friend, brothers and sisters, so once again, this is your Christian brother Ericbraxton speaking to you all from his beloved country, Trinidad and Tobago, the land of my nativity, the land of my birth, Trinidad and Tobago, of course, this wonderful island country that is in the blue Caribbean Sea. In this part 3 video, I'm dealing with Melissa Scott, the current wife of the late Dr. Jean Scott, and of course I'm dealing with Herbert W. Armstrong too. As I said, I would like Melissa Scott, if she could get the literatures, and of course began reading the literatures of the late Herbert W. Armstrong, and began watching his videos of and all the teachings of the late Dr. Jean Scott, of the late Herbert W. Armstrong. Of the late Herbert W. Armstrong, she will see that he have taught about the 10 lost tribes, and he identify who the 10 lost tribes are. My dear friends, I have listened to Melissa Scott teaching about the 10 lost tribes, but no way have she identified who is Ephraim and Manasseh in modern time. Herbert W. Armstrong have identified that to the world. I'm not saying that her late husband, Dr. Jean Scott, did not know who was Ephraim and Manasseh. Of course he knew who was Ephraim and Manasseh. But when I listened to the teaching of Melissa Scott, she had talked about the 10 tribes. For instance, Melissa Scott said she do not know who is, she know there is someone sitting up on the throne of David, but she do not know who is sitting up on the throne of David. Well, Herbert W. Armstrong made that clear. The current Queen Elizabeth of England, she is sitting up on the throne of David. And he have made other things crystal clear that you do not know Melissa Scott. But if you go to the teachings of Herbert W. Armstrong, you will get the information there that you are ignorant of. And your late husband, you also know that too. But as I said, Dr. Jean Scott had more than 40,000 teachings, and you haven't listened to all the teachings of Dr. Jean Scott. No one person have listened to all the teaching of Dr. Jean Scott. We have listened some of the teaching of Dr. Jean Scott, and as time go by, we listen more of his teaching, but not all of his teachings. So many things Dr. Jean Scott talk about the 10 tribes, about Ephraim and Manasseh, that even you are ignorant of, Melissa Scott. Melissa Scott. And that's why I'm saying, Melissa Scott, my dear sister, that your husband, your late husband, Dr. Jean Scott, have written wonderful books. He written about he taught about the pyramids. He taught about the cubit inch, the royal inches, the gospel in the stars. Some of the books that I could remember offhand. But Herbert W. Armstrong, he too have written a lot of books. And he have published these books in millions of copies and distributed all over the world. But a lot of his books, I'm not so sure if it is in print, but the information is on the net. You could get it off of the internet by typing up Herbert W. Armstrong and the Worldwide Church of God. This not only apply to you, Melissa Scott. This I'm speaking in general. So anyone who see this video, happen to see this video on YouTube and on the internet, any part of the world, I am instructing them to do the same thing, to go and look for the teaching of Herbert W. Armstrong, and of course your late husband, Dr. Jean Scott, at the same time. My dear friends, and of course, those who have the teaching of Dr. Jean Scott and Herbert W. Armstrong, I advise them to study what these guys have said along with the Holy Bible, the words of God, the original Bible, the King James Version. So I don't want them to swallow down everything Herbert W. Armstrong say and Dr. Jean Scott without except searching it in the Bible. No, when they are reading the book of Herbert W. Armstrong, they have the Bible along with it, checking to see what he say in the book, in the Bible. The same thing applied to Dr. Gene Scott. The same way too. This is my instruction. Because I have in my possession a few copies of the magazines, the Plain Truth magazine, written by the late Herbert W. Armstrong. And I do not know, Melissa Scott, my dear sister, if you have ever read one magazine, Plain Truth magazine, of the late Herbert W. Armstrong. And if you haven't, in fact, haven't read not one book of Herbert W. Armstrong, neither one book, Plain Truth magazine from the Worldwide Church of God, one Plain Truth magazine, if you haven't read one Plain Truth magazine by the Herbert W. Armstrong, then that is very sad on your part. But I do not want that sadness to continue on that path. It could be changed by you getting the literatures of Herbert W. Armstrong and begin reading it, my dear sister. Will you follow my noble, decent, and right instruction to you, my dear sister Melissa Scott? If you do that, I could assure you, you will be blessed by God in the process tremendously, my dear sister. So this is my instruction to you, my dear sister, coming from your Christian brother, Ericbraxton, this little Christian boy, this little Christian child, way down in Trinidad and Tobago, that is in the blue Caribbean Sea, my dear sister. Will you take my noble advice and follow my instruction? You will see in the process that the advice and instruction that I'm giving you, it will benefit you tremendously, and you will benefit from it a full 100%. Will you like that benefit and to be part of your life, Melissa Scott? I pray and I hope. But this not only applies to Melissa Scott, this applies to every boy and girl everywhere who are listening to this video on the internet and YouTube and the World Wide Web. You all might say, why am I only singing this chorus with Herbert W. Armstrong and Dr. Gene Scott? You see, I have to sing this chorus loud and clear for one and all to hear. Because you all, especially in America, is showing disrespect to the late Herbert W. Armstrong. Here is a brilliant man that God have used to declare the gospel to the world. And after his death, you all are not appreciating what he said. You all have turned your backs on what Herbert W. Armstrong have teach. Not all, but majority of the Americans. And by doing that, you all have turned all your backs on God. Because when God sent the prophet Ezekiel to preach, if the people turn their back on Ezekiel, they turn their back on God. Because what Ezekiel is saying is what God instructed him to say. So when you reject the message, what Ezekiel is saying, you're rejecting what God is saying. God is just using a servant to declare that message. And the same thing with Herbert W. Armstrong. So then, therefore, I have a right to sing that chorus loud and clear for one and all to hear. Will you all begin listening to that chorus, to that song that I am singing to one and all? I could assure you all are listening to all sorts of songs that is not benefiting you all. And I'm appealing to the university graduates, to the young college boy and girl, in whatever institution, learning institution they are growing up in the United States, in the towns and the village, in the different throughout the United States. If any young boy and girl hear what I am saying in this video, little boy and girl, and you all have access to the internet, follow my instruction, little boy and girl, whether you are growing up in Texas, in the rural area, in the city, or in the urban area, or in the rural area. The minute you hear this video and see this video, will you do the noble, the decent, and the right thing? Type up Herbert W. Armstrong on your cell phone not have internet access, and Herbert W. Armstrong will come up. And little boy and girl began studying Herbert W. Armstrong, began listening his videos, and began reading his teaching along with the Bible from Genesis to Revelation. And it will benefit you very tremendously, little boy and girl. Will you all do that? I pray and I hope you all do that. Now I've come to the end of this video. Now may the grace of God be with you and with me and with the human family from this day forth and forevermore. Shalom, peace. See you all in the next video soon. Bye bye, my friends.